Hey, good morning, cats. It is another wonderful, beautiful summer day here in Ohio. Had a little bit of rain last night, which was good for the garden. It could have used more, but I was happy that it got some. Before I got started this morning, I just had to show you my garden because I'm pretty pleased with how it's doing this year. Yeah, these tomatoes are chest high now. I've got tomatoes on the, I don't know if you can see them down here or not. Down on the bottom there. Yeah, they're almost like tennis ball sized. And look at these zucchini plants. So I've already picked 9 zucchinis so far. There's another one that's not ready to be picked yet, but it probably will be tomorrow. There's another one over on that plant. And then I've got all kinds of squash coming on. My sunflowers here are just about shoulder height. Some catnip growing here in the corner. I don't know if you've ever smelled catnip before, but it's mint. It smells mint. The cats love it. And this is just one that grew from a seed. This sunflower. It's going to be the giant of all of them. So I'm glad I left it grow. And then my eggplants are doing fantastic. I'm going to have all kinds of eggplant this year. Now, in the past, I haven't had that much eggplant, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it all. I'm still living the bachelor life right now, as V is still in the rehab facility. So kind of winging it on my own around here and trying to keep up with everything. Welcome to the man cave this morning. I was going to talk a little bit about some of my past, a little story. Some of the stories I'm not so proud of, some of the stories I don't tell. But I'll let you in on this one. I mean, when I was younger, in my teens, I was kind of I wouldn't say real wild, but you know, I was pretty wild, I guess. And after I moved out of the house, turned 18, I moved out of the house, was on my own, and had a full-time job, and really got into the drug scene. So there was a lot of marijuana. There was a few other drugs involved too. Fortunately, that wasn't like really long-lived. I mean, I didn't dabble in the hardcore drugs for very long. Most of my younger years was just smoking weed, which I regret now because, you know, you pay the price when you get older for inhaling any kind of nicotine or smoke or any of that stuff. So, yeah, now I think I have a COPD from that. I'm always coughing and hacking up junk. Doctor said I might even have emphysema, but that wasn't really, I wasn't ever tested for that. In my later years, you know, I kind of cleaned up my act pretty good. But there was always the temptation there to do one thing or another. I quit drinking for a long time, and then just out of temptations, I ended up starting back up again, and then I quit again. Today, I don't drink much at all. I mean, I've got beer in the bottom of my refrigerator that just sits there. You know, I think, well, maybe someday if somebody stops in, I'll share a beer with them, but that doesn't happen. The pot, I don't do that anymore. I just feel like right now in my life I got to keep my wits together. You know, I got to be running on all 8 cylinders here, or all 2 cylinders. Either one works for me. But this goes back, you know, I had a buddy that lived not too far away from here, and that was kind of our meeting place. So after work, you know, after I'd get dinner and everything, I'd ride down to his place and hang out in his garage. And some of the other bikers would go there as well and hang out. We like a little band of brothers. And He had everything there you needed to work on a bike. He had the air compressor to fill your tires. He had all the waxes, polishes, chrome polishes and everything so you could touch up your bike before you went on the ride. All the tools you needed to do any tweak and work on the bike. And some of the guys were really good mechanics. Now, I don't purport to be an excellent mechanic, but I kind of know my way around. I'm not afraid to get into some things, you know. I don't know, some getting in too deep sometimes scares me because I think, boy, am I going to remember how to put this back together again. Anyway, I ended up at my buddy's place, and it was just him and I that evening. And he says, hey, I've got to go into town. Do you want to come with me? And I said, yeah, sure. You know, I mean, I'm up for a ride anytime, any day. Let's go. So we got our bikes ready to roll, fired them up, and hit the road. Took us about an hour to get into the big city. And he knew where he was going. I was unfamiliar with where we were. But we ended up at this big house right in the city, in the residential area. You know, where the houses are just like boom, 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 boom on both sides of the street, and you have like a little postage stamp yard in the front. This is a pretty big house, and in the back was the carriage house, which, you know, we would call a garage, but back in the day they put carriages in there. So this was a big house. And the carriage garage, or the carriage house, had like 3 bays in it. So whoever had originally built or owned the home, you know, must have had some money. But anyway, we pulled in and we parked around back, and they had a great big like patio out back area. And this attractive woman came out and met us out there. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was just going along for the ride. And my buddy says, hey, I'm here to pick up. And she says, all right, well, come on in and we'll settle up. Okay, now I kind of put 2 and 2 together and I know what's going on here. But I'm loyal to my brothers, so I hang with them. If it was my choice, I wouldn't be in the situation that I was in. Well, I guess it was my choice, but you know, if it was something that I had, I wouldn't go that way. I got led into a lot of things by hanging with my bros. You know what I'm talking about? They led me down some dirty roads. So we go in this house, and this kitchen was huge. There was a great big huge Viking table, like dining table. It looked like it was handmade with a big slab. I mean, it was huge. And big Viking chairs around it. And over in the corner was a big, like a coal burning stove thing that was ancient, that they actually cooked with. It was a very interesting place, needless to say. But the woman disappeared, and we stood there kind of nervously waiting. You know, I didn't really know what was going to come down here. But she comes up out of the door with another guy, and they actually have like armloads of cut weed or marijuana. And they throw them on this Viking table. Now, apparently they had a hydroponic grow in their basement of this house. And I don't know if you know what hydroponic is, but they're growing marijuana under grow lights, you know, in a basement. So, you know, they don't need to be outside, and if they get the right light and the right water and the right fertilizers, then they grow pretty profusely. So here was all these armloads of plants laying on the table, and they began to like bale them up in newspaper into these tight little packages, compressing them all down into these packages. Once we got all the packages done, I just stood and watched while they did it. And of course the aroma, fills the whole room. I don't know if you ever smelled that skunky smell of raw cannabis. We brought the packages out to the bike, and my buddy loaded up his saddlebags, and then he looked at me and said, "You got room in your saddlebags?" Well, yeah, they're empty. So they loaded up my saddlebags too, with these compressed bricks of raw green cannabis. So I thought, okay, here we go. Well, the woman says, "Hey, before you go, I suppose you might want to sample the stuff." And my buddy says, "Yeah, sure, So she gets this little pipe out, and she takes a little puff, and she hands it to my buddy, and he takes a puff, he hands it to me, and I took a puff. I'm a biker, I'm hardcore. What am I going to do? No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't do that stuff. Yeah, it's peer pressure. So I did it. Went around again. She said, "You want another one?" He says, "Yeah, sure." And she says, "Well, maybe you better be careful because this stuff is pretty high powered." No, we're good. So he takes a puff and he gives it to me, and I took another toke. All right, she says that's good. He settles up with her, and we settle up on the bikes, and we get ready to roll. When we pulled out onto the street, and we had probably gone through about 3 or 4 stop signs to get to the highway. And about the time we get to the highway, my buddy starts lagging behind me, and I'm waving him ahead. "Come on, this is your ride. You're the leader. I'm following you." "No," he says, I'm going to stay behind you. You lead the way." Okay, well, I don't really know where I'm going either, and now this cannabis is starting to get an effect on me, so I was getting pretty buzzed and had to ride all the way back, like an hour ride. It was starting to get dark. The sun was going down, and of course the paranoia comes on, and I'm trying to maintain at least 60 miles an hour on the highway, but all these thoughts are going racing through my head of these incidents that could happen. Like, what if there's a big pothole in the middle of the road, or what if I miss my exit, or what if a car comes the wrong way, or just all these weird thoughts going through your head because of the effects of the drug. I regretted at that point that I had even taken 1 toke of the stuff. Well, after about a 45-minute ride, we finally exited off the highway, and we got on the state route. I was feeling a little more comfortable now, and I think he was too, and he kind of took the lead and passed me and ran alongside of me, and we ran side by side on the state route now. We came upon this minivan that was going maybe about 15 miles under the speed limit. Those kind, it's like grandpa or grandma just putting along, minding their own business. So my buddy, he just cranks his shovel head out and goes around this minivan, and so I follow him. I go around the minivan. I suppose when we pass a minivan, we're probably doing about 65, 70 mile an hour. Well, before we could even slow down to the speed limit again, there was a police on the side of pulled into somebody's driveway there doing radar. And he came out behind us and he pulled us over. Okay. Pulled over to the side of the road, put the kickstand down. I stayed on my bike. My buddy pulls up behind me. And I turned around, and right away I told him, I said, "Just stay on your bike and stay calm and just listen to what he has to say. Just answer his questions." Well, my buddy couldn't do that. He gets off his bike. He's all nervous. He's pacing back and forth. He's like, oh no, this is bad. It's all going down now. We're done. Well, the sheriff comes up and he says, "You boys are going a little fast there." And said, "Yeah." I said, "We passed that minivan back there that was going under the speed limit, and in doing so, we accelerated over the speed limit." And he said, yeah, I did notice that. So he said, can I see your driver's license? Yeah. So we pull out our driver's license. My buddy, his hands are shaking, you know. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm trying to stay really calm. You know, I don't want to act like I'm nervous too. Send off some red lights, you know. That's the last thing you want to do. I'm still sitting on my bike. Cop goes back to his cruiser. Oh, you know, the blue red lights are blazing in the darkness, and we're just sitting there waiting. Finally, he comes back. He gives us both our driver's license. He says, all right, guys, no problem. Just slow it down a little bit. He said, there's a couple parties up the road here. I don't know if people are going to come out of there intoxicated or whatever, but I just want you to be careful and slow it down, stay the speed limit. Yes, officer, absolutely, no problem. We will do that. All right, guys, ride safe, have a wonderful evening. And we were off. Well, within 10-15 minutes, we were pulling into the club bar there, and obviously quite relieved. The packages were handed off to somebody else, and I was free of that baggage, that cargo that could have got me in some really hot water. I think back on that to this day, and I think how fortunate I was, because things could have really gone the other way, and I could have ended up on a whole different road in life, spending some time in the penitentiary, I'm sure. Well, I'm glad to be here today. I'm feeling pretty good. It's a beautiful day for a ride, but I got an appointment to be at for my wife this morning again. Always busy around here, and not a whole lot of free time. So with that, thanks for watching. Give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our videos. We would love to have you along for this ride. Until next time, cats, ride hard and die free.